afternoon and welcome to this final council meeting of 2024. I request that everybody make sure their mobile phones are on silent, please. Firstly, I'll do acknowledgement to country. Basco Shire Council acknowledges the Bunurong as the traditional owners and custodians of the land and the water, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memory, the tradition, the culture and the law. Basco Shire Council celebrates the opportunity to embrace and empower Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities in their diversity. Basco Shire Council will create opportunities for future recognition and respectful partnerships that will honour the traditional owners and custodians and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Thank you. Councillor's statement. Councillor Bowe, will you please read the councillor's statement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All members of this council pledge to the Basco Shire community to consider every item listed on this agenda based on the individual merits of each item, without bias or prejudice, by maintaining an open mind and disregarding councillors' personal interests so as to avoid any conflict with our public duty. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in any item will make a proper prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate in the debate or vote on the issue.
Thank you, Councillor Bowe. Item 1, President apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Brett Tessaro. Item 2, the declaration of interest. There's no declaration of interest from councillors. Item 3 is the confirmation of our minutes. So to move it as a block, I request to Councillor, thank you, Councillor Ellis. Seconder, please. Councillor Lang, thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. I didn't see Councillor Lark's hand. Councillor Lark, can you hear us?
No,
I've got my hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. Please hold in front of the camera when we're taking the vote. Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. To move it as a block, thank you. That's carried. That we move those as a block. Is there any councillors wishing to discuss any of the reports on 3.1, 3.2 or 3.3? I request a councillor that we adopt the recommendations in those minutes. And so Councillor Rooks, Councillor Ellis, second, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. At this point, for Mayor and Councillor reports, I'd like to firstly read a veil for the passing of Bruce Campbell, OAM, who passed away on the 16th of September. Bruce is survived by his wife Sheila of 63 years and his children, his extended family and friends. Bruce was a wonderful Rotarian, an outstanding community leader, a great family man and one of the finest people that you could ever meet. He was a great statesman, and Bruce was certainly very well known and very well respected and very well loved throughout the district, especially in the Kernot area. He had made a huge contribution to the community in so many ways and left an enormous legacy. Bruce was a Shire councillor for the Bass Shire from 1970 to 1988. He was the Shire president for 3 years, really only facing one election in all that time, so he's certainly well loved. He was on many committees, including Weights and Measures and the Library Committee. He was a captain of the Kernot Fire Brigade and established the Bass Valley Primary School, long-serving member of the Kernot Hall Committee, Woodley Vale Red Cross and the Wonthaggi Combined Probus Group, Bradford Cemetery Trust. He was always ready to put his hand up and help others within the community. He was a member of the Western Port Water Board and the Shire representative for the Wonthaggi Secondary School Committee. He attended many civil ceremonies at Government House representing the Shire of Bass. Bruce was a Rotarian from 1995, the president of Rotary from 1995 to 96, and an active member for 30 years, and was a Paul Harris Fellow for Rotary, one of the highest awards, and a well-deserved award that was. Bruce was sought out for advice and leadership when the job needed to be done. He is quite an achiever, but a really driving force in the community, and certainly made a real difference in the lives of many people. He was a great man, he was great company, very humble, and he certainly has left a remarkable long legacy for the community for his work that he's done. He was proudly appointed the Order of Australia for his wonderful work in the community over his lifetime, for his wonderful recognition. Bruce was truly a gentleman, and he will be sadly missed by his family and friends. John Dusha, former councillor and Mayor of Bass Coast Shire Council, assisted in putting that together for the council. So I thank him for that. That'll be included in the minutes. Thank you. Now we'll just take the opportunity now for councillors in this final meeting of council to have a statement they would like to individually make, if that's not compulsory, but if you would like to, I'll just ask the raise of hands if anybody would like to make a short statement. Councillor Lang, you could start, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to start by thanking the community, first and foremost, for their support, encouragement and assistance to me during my time as a councillor. Their advice and their lobbying and discussions and, disagreements have kept me inspired and motivated to continue in this work. So I'm very, very grateful to the community. Every day I am reassured that we live in a really beautiful place just by having these conversations. I also wanted to thank my colleagues who have also been exceptional in their work with me, advising me and also arguing with me and disagreeing with me. It's been a wonderful experience, taught me a lot. Council officers, I just wanted to acknowledge their incredible expertise and constant advice. Their information and advice has always been evidence-based, balanced and fierce and fair. So I really wanted to thank them. As a councillor, I believe that my strength has been to recognise the contribution of women in the chamber and of women in the community as a whole. I have worked really hard to acknowledge that women deserve an equal place in our community. I've also worked really hard on a number of issues that have affected our community, being the Western Port Woodlands and also the distinctive area landscape planning. So thank you very much for my time here and your patience with me throughout the years. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Amanda Serve. Thank you, Letitia. So my comments initially were around when I first started as a councillor, I guess I found the role of the position description didn't really exist. It's a very ill-defined role to be a councillor. And so I had good conversations with people like Ali Wasty and Wayne Mack, and even Brett Tassari was able to add some insight into the role as current mayor at the time. And they helped me along my way to understand the role. Since that time, Michael's been very helpful, travelling with him in the car back and forth each time about some more of the political things that come up in the council world. For me, my time at council isn't just at council, but it's the things that happen outside council. And I had a number of personal incidents early in my term. One, I was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma cancer, which was quite an impact on my life and my family. And also my daughter's equal best friend and good family friend suicided, and both those impacted me for quite some time. I was fortunate enough to do the AICD course, which was really beneficial and then reinforced what I thought I'd known and learned through those early conversations with those people. And that's really helped my role, not only as a councillor, but also in the community when I take on my leadership roles, which I do with other community groups. And the skills that I've learned there have been really beneficial. And then I started working at Pickle 15 months ago, and we put a lot of work into that place, the staff and volunteers, to get it to a position we're really happy with. And then obviously the recent news has been quite upsetting too. So I think what I'm proud of is that I've remained accountable to the role of councillor during all that time. At one point, I think I was on 5 different community reference groups, plus I'd have my community groups that I volunteer with on a personal level, Landcare and the Philippine Land Alliance. So I remain committed to the role, and I just want to thank my family, Pavani, and the 2 kids, fellow councillors for all the support you've given me. I agree with Letitia, we're so fortunate with the council officers we have, so thank you right across the board there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor, any other councillors?
Going around the table.
Yeah, I am, if you would like to. I didn't see you put your hand up. Thank you, Councillor Whelan.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, like to, walking out the door today, my last time, I'd like to thank the Island Ward community for the opportunity to represent them over the last 8 years. And it's not a good idea not to go first, because Councillor Lang has already thanked the officers, as has Councillor Rooks, but my real heartfelt thanks to the officers for 8 years of consistent evidence-based briefings, which has been really good. We've had 3 excellent CEOs over that time, and they've all brought their own style to it. Greg's still bringing his style to it. But we've been very lucky with what we've had, and we're only discussing earlier, Madam Mayor, the reforms that have occurred around the budget in terms of the percentage of rates money that goes into capital these days, from a low of around 7% to up around 18%. So that's a significant reform that's occurred over that time, led in large part by the officer contingent. So my heartfelt thanks to them. To the mayors I've served under, Councillor Pamela Rothfield, who we came in fairly tough circumstances around the old standalone campaign and all the rest of it, and things shook out over that time, well led by Pam, I've got to say. Brett took over the mantle, did an excellent job over his 3-year period. And of course, Madam Mayor, you this year, I didn't experience your first term, but you've led with courage and dignity this year. And I thank you for your efforts in that regard. And finally, in terms of my fellow councillors, it's a privilege to be able to work in a council like this. When people ask me what my legacy is, I say I don't have one, but we do. As a council group over 8 years have achieved quite a bit. Really thankful for the work we've got, and remind people you always need 4 colleagues if you're going to achieve it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ellis, you don't have to, that's...
Oh, I made a couple of little notes I might talk to you.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Yeah, sir.
Thank you.
Folks, this is the last stop on an 8-year journey, and it would have been totally insurmountable without the support, guidance and sacrifice of my wife, Leslie Adams. I just want to acknowledge that our families support us and make sure that we're here, and the number of things that they miss out on. Can't thank them enough. I also want to thank so many people. Everybody in this building has made me and everybody, other councillor, feel like we're at home when we walk in. It's just great. And I also want to thank the people of Western Port Ward for giving me the privilege of being here, and the people of Bass Coast for supporting me and letting me know how they felt about what we were doing here. I think it's very important that people turn up and take an interest. I cherish the memories that I carry with me, all the people that have had great ideas, all the people with the small ideas. It all adds up and it makes a difference. It's just wonderful. Thank you for inviting me to all your events, your community gatherings and that. It's been wonderful. Couple of personal highlights for me that are also recognise what the council's done. The South Coast Inclusion Network and the way Ida Hobbit has grown over the years. This year it was just brilliant. I could not have asked for anything more. In the first year we were on council, it was a real just flag raising, tick the box effort for Ida Hobbit. Now it's in the calendar and so well supported. Also working with our First Nations people, we've still got a lot of work to do in that area, but I think we've made progress. The environment's coming along really good, and I just want to say that the improvement in the library services across the waterline, could not ask for any more, and well, actually you could, like a permanent home for the library would be good. both here and there. And over the last year, I've felt a need to increase the amount of compassion and empathy. I think as a society, we're losing the ability to listen to each other. And I'm just trying to get people to understand where everybody else is coming from. I'm getting the 2-minute warning. And I just want to say that we need to think where people are coming from as we go forward. Thank you, folks.
Yes, well done.
Councillor Bauer.
Madam Mayor, fellow councillors and ratepayers watching this meeting. It could have been the best of times, but it became the worst of times. It could have been the age of wisdom, but it became the age of ideology. What started with hope descended into acrimony, from Machiavellian machinations of intrigue to the gates of distrust and factionalism. From the 3 pillars of climate change, renewables and First Nations to the cries of rates, roads and rubbish. From the obsession of passive house to the failed motions of getting the red bin picked up in the heat of summer. From the attempted dismantlement of democracy by eliminating question time to the overreaching motions of the voice referendum and the creation of a new category for the Nobel Prize. From the prioritising of cars going down Thompson Avenue one way to not rezoning the sports grounds on the Hilton Chadwick Reserve in Cowell. From the car ferry that slipped under the waves to the Gordian knot that is traffic and car parking. From the pre-COVID blue sky wish list to the post-COVID era of financial reckoning. To those councillors who are sailing into the sunsets, I wish you bon voyage. I also thank the officers of council for their help during the time that I've been here. To those that are restanding, the election clarion has sounded, and the people will, as they should, judge us on this term. Sic transit gloria mundi.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to my last report. This report is a bit of a mixed bag, but I hope offers an insight into my journey over the past 4 years. I'm going to focus on what I think is a concern. The sustainability of local government concerns me with the rates being lifted under the level of CPI. Cost shifting still a serious concern, and desire for big wish, nice to have items taking centre stage over the basic, less sexy but most needed projects and or services. I am hopeful that we see more direction and greater funding from the state and federal governments in relation to mitigation of environmental concerns, with this council having punched way above their weight in this space, often sacrificing more traditional projects to rightly fund and assist our communities feeling the direct impacts. There is a need for less reports, more action and decision making at other levels of government who should back it up with funding. It has disappointed me that this chamber has at times been used to further the political agenda of those issues better left to other levels of government, and I hope those who follow us will respect their role and leave the party politics for others. There have been both highs and lows during my time with Bass Coast, and for me it's been my goal to weigh up the differing views and find a balance. I do believe the balance is slightly out of kilter, but as with every democracy, this is a numbers game, and although at times not agreeing with them, respecting the numbers is part of the role. The little wins along the way have made my Bass Coast Council journey worthwhile. Anderson Reserve upgrade, Kilcunda Skate Park, the mountain bike BMX pump strategy, the upgrade to Kilcunda Bass Football Netball Club, the Coronella Bowls Club concrete replacement and disabled toilet upgrade, first stage of Pioneer Bay Community Centre and San Remo Township Structure Plan. I don't have time to list them all, but working with community council officers have achieved some great stuff for Western Port Ward, and their work is appreciated. I am grateful for their support, their expertise and highly professional approach throughout my first term. Thank you to my fellow councillors for enlightening me with their differing points of view, with special mention to ward colleagues, Councillor Laserve, Councillor Kent and Councillor Ellis for their teamwork approach, to Councillor Tassari for sharing his expertise and for his counsel. to Councillor Bauer and Councillor Lark for their willingness to listen and work through any areas of concern. One last paragraph, Madam Mayor. To this beautiful community, I have been so blessed to share special time with you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for the warm and generous welcome I always received. Spending time in my community has been the absolute highlight of my role, from the charity events, the citizenship ceremonies, fashion parades, ratepayers and residents group festivals. The list goes on. I am so grateful for your encouragement, for your friendships and for your candid feedback, all of which guided me with my decision making. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor. I'll just finally wrap up I'd like to thank my colleagues for their stewardship in local council and for Deputy Mayor and certainly for the friendship and the support that has been offered to me in this term, but also my 12 years in council. I think we've certainly grown as a council. We've certainly had some great fun together, but we've also done some great work together, which is really important. I'd like to thank the community and to the officers within the organisation, through all the CEOs that we've had. That sounds like a lot, but honestly. We haven't worn you down too much, but your advice has always been without favour and given us the best advice. To the committees, all the committees that we're on, it's not just the council, but each councillor takes on a role of many committees that support this organisation. I thank them, also to my family for their continuing support. So as my last serving at this meeting, I'll look back on local government, my term in local council, with fond memories. So thank you. Now,
Madam Mayor, before we move on.
Councillor Lark, sorry, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Lark, did you have anything to say?
Nothing to add.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Councillor Bauer.
Madam Mayor, I wish to move a vote of thanks to you as Mayor in your time in council.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer.
I'm happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, item 5 on the agenda is public question time, but council is operating under the election period policy, therefore there will be no public question time for this meeting. Item 6 is notice of motion, and there are no notices of motion. Item 7, petition, joint letters, deputation and correspondence. There are no items under that. Item 8, reports requiring council decision. The quarterly report 8.1 for the 4th quarter, April to June 2024. Ms. Borley, will you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the April to June 2024 performance report to Council, reflecting the end-of-year results for the Annual Action Plan, Capital Works Program and Council's financial performance. 19 of 25 Annual Action Plan items have been completed, with the remainder to be delivered this financial year. Council delivered 154 capital works projects for a total investment of $38.14 million and finished the year in a good financial position with an operating surplus of $20.6 million, but a less favourable to budget adjusted underlying net result. Highlights this quarter included the completion of the Anderson Street Reserve, refurbishment of the Wonthaggi Railway Station Museum, and completion of a range of strategic land use planning documents. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Borley. Have I got a councillor that is happy to move the report? Thank you, Councillor Lang. Seconder. Councillor Brooks. Thank you, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a bit of deja vu here with a lot of the findings from the quarterly report in the financial report presented last week. It's important to note that there will be an underlying deficit of 11.7 million. However, part of that is the federal government's delay in providing the federal assistance grants for us to continue delivering the services that the community needs. We've delivered about 76% of the projects that were mapped out to be completed for this quarter, and we can always do better on those kinds of metrics. Importantly, though, we've stuck to our 5 pillars from the council plan that we've moved way back when, the start of the term, which were climate emergency and climate preparedness, protect and enhance the natural environment, healthy and inclusive communities, access and movement, education, creative economy and industry. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think that if we continue in the current rate capping environment, these numbers aren't going to continue to look not look favourably. So we will continue to look at efficiencies, but when we're being constrained below the CPI, it makes it very difficult for us to deliver. So, yep,
Thank you, Councillor
this
Wren.
quarterly
Councillor
report
Brooks.
confirms that.
Yeah, I was going to talk to just one item in the annual action plan, which is the develop a dog park strategy. I was wondering if I could put a question forward first, just with regards to what are the components that are within that dog park strategy that's looking to be developed?
Ms Kennedy?
Yep. So through the Mayor, the dog park strategy has a number of components. It talks about a framework for decision making. So where would we locate them? What size could they be? What are the requirements for different types of dog parks? So we obviously don't want them all to be the same. So it's basically a framework for decision making, so that when we get asked by the community, we'd like a dog park in our community, then there's some criteria of which to assess that. So there's consistency of approach. That's been developed, and we'll obviously engage with the community in the future on that strategy.
Thank you, Ms Kennedy.
Thank you. Yep, and I just wanted to reiterate that second part, which was, it says we've completed that, developed a dog park strategy 100% in the annual action plan. What's been developed effectively is the research component, which has been undertaken by the council officers and with other external consultants, I'm assuming, or experts. And so we've got to a point now where it's ready to go out to the community, and that consultation.
Speak to the report.
Can I just ask another question, if I can, Madam Mayor? The strategy that we're talking about when it comes to the dog strategy, that will go out for community consultation around the processes and how those processes have come to fruition.
Yeah, so through the Mayor, the strategy was developed as directed by councillors. We had conversations with councillors around what they wanted to see in it. We've prepared it. Obviously, we're in the election period, so we're holding that over to the new year, the consultation. We will engage with the broader community, key stakeholders, and obviously through that we'll finalise it, and then it'll be adopted come back to the council for adoption in the new year. So the strategy is prepared, the document's prepared, ready to go.
And just one last question, Madam Mayor. So did we have consultants as part of this process, or was it just council officers that have put this together?
So through the Mayor, it was done by council officers, but in consultation with a number of other councils that have already implemented similar strategies. So we looked at what others have prepared, what's working, what's not working, and we've built that into our process, and also consistent to similar locations as Bass Coast.
I'd just like to make a comment on that particular part, Madam Mayor, and I know that there's a huge drive from the community to have these spaces. There are a lot of these spaces right around the state, and so therefore I'm hoping that this strategy is not going to restrain the ability for council to actually introduce these spaces. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that strategy and what the processes are, and I encourage the community to please get behind it, as I'm sure the Phillip Island Bass Coast Dog Association will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council would like to speak to the report?
David had the call.
David finished, haven't you?
Oh, you asked the question.
And then I made a comment.
You did.
Sorry,
You're okay to move on, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from any other councillors?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, did I jump in there, or sorry, Councillor Rooks, I didn't realise you.
No, it doesn't matter. Don't worry, let's just keep moving. No other comments from any further councillors? Councillor Rooks, if I've wronged you, would you like to make
No, I'd finished.
Councillor Lark?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify one point with regard to the financial assistance grants. The feds actually paid a good portion of the grant, 7.5 million or so, on the 28th of June. It just hadn't filtered through the various mechanisms to get to council as such, and the balance will be paid over quarterly amounts during the 2025 financial year. So if you want to match expenses and income, the fact that the financial services grant for 2025 wasn't received is a good thing, in that on the one hand it highlights the fact that we've spent the money before we've got the grant in respect to 2025. So it's an interesting conundrum, but I just wanted to clarify those facts, and that's recorded in the Australian government records.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the recommendation? If not, I'll put it back to Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify with Mr. Philmolter what it says in the report, which is timing of the financial assistance grants payment of 8.4 million was one of the adverse impacts on the underlying deficit.
Mr. Philmolter.
Certainly, thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, the Ascot Shire only received the financial assistance grants during the first week of July this year. I understand that the federal government will release that money on the 28th of June. It probably was routed through the Victorian Grants Commission. We received our payments, I believe, on about the 4th of July, or the 3rd or 4th of July the following week.
So that is correct then, what you've stated there?
Yeah, under the accounting standards, we can only recognise the revenue once we've received it.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense. Thank you, Mr. Philmolter. I just wanted to highlight some of the projects from the quarter, which included the Anderson Street Reserve Open Space Master Plan, the Inverloch Rock Wall Extension, and also the major renovations to the Wonthaggi Railway Museum. If you haven't been down there, you should go and check it out. So it's a sound quarterly financial report. It does signal some work that needs to be done around efficiencies, but also around the fact that rate capping is a thorn in our side. So thank you, Madam Mayor. That's nothing further.
Lang. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour of receiving the quarterly report? Thank you. Those against? It's carried. Item 8.2 is the annual report. I'd like to present the report to the Chamber. It is my pleasure to present the 23 to 24 annual report to the Council and to the community. The annual report is not just a statutory requirement, but a key opportunity to highlight and celebrate the key activities delivered for the Bass Coast community. One of Council's biggest achievements was the completion and successful opening of the Burnanite, our new cultural centre in Cowes. This award-winning intergenerational project has been warmly embraced by the community, and I feel very proud that we've been able to deliver a facility which offers high-quality opportunities for our local communities and visitors alike. A key priority for Council is enhancing off-peak visitor attractions, and we took a big step forward this year, partnering with Surfing Victoria to present the Phillip Island Junior Pro. This new event attracted 180 young surfers to Bass Coast during September school holidays. The quality of the Council's work was acknowledged with awards recognising Council's commitment to sustainability, innovation and digital improvements. Council has also committed to delivering 154 capital projects representing $38 million, just over $38 million worth of investment in footpaths, road renewals, culvert replacements, new spaces, toilet blocks and community facilities for our growing community to enjoy. It's also pleasing to note that council's finished the year in a strong financial position, reporting a 20.6 million operating surplus. Council's financial position remains strong with its profitability, reinforced by its key working capital ratio, which is comfortably above the minimal level of its borrowing, being less than half of the limit set by the state. This balance sheet strength will provides council with the financial capacity to support the funding and delivery of a current forward plan, potential new initiatives into the future, and I commend the 2023-24 annual report to the Chamber. Have I got a councillor who will move the report? Thank you, Councillor Holstead. A seconder? Councillor Bowd. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's some great stuff in this annual report. You've just spoken a lot to the financials and the data, but I'd like to say there are some great projects, to mention them all. Great projects, but a few that I felt needed highlighting that have a direct benefit for our community. Our recreational team, hats off to them, who've worked hard, delivered some fantastic upgraded playgrounds that have created beautiful spaces for families to enjoy. There's the Outrigger Reserve, Mackenzie View Reserve in Cowes, Sunnyside Park, Cape Woolamai, big cheer for that one. And Councillor Lang mentioned Anderson Street Reserve in San Remo, which has also incorporated some gym equipment for seniors to be able to use, so it's really exciting stuff. I absolutely love the Second Life Pre-Loved Equipment program, which I'm not sure that the community would be aware of, but Council has partnered with Rotary Overseas, relocated playgrounds. So all of the old playground equipment is donated and therefore gets a second life, giving joy to children around the world. I think that's just a beautiful program to be a part of. Another favourite for councillors is the Community Grants program, where local community groups have benefited, and there is a long list: Phillip Island Board Riders Club, Phillip Island Community Orchard, Inverloch Surf Life Saving, Bass Coast Historical Club, Wonthaggi Neighbourhood. The list just goes on and on. These are just some of our wonderful groups who have used their own voluntary manpower to make a difference in their local communities by delivering exciting projects through this program. Their positive approach and selfless contribution is what community is really about. And I'd like to really congratulate them, those who recognise the need and then put in the hard work that's required to address it. There will always be commentary around the achievements or lack of, and that's what is so good about living in a democratic society, Madam Mayor. Everyone has a view and is encouraged to share it. Did we get everything right? I guess it comes down to perspective, and again, this is individual. The annual report links back to the council plan that was adopted by this council after community consultation in 2020. A new plan will be adopted by a new council next year, and I encourage community to take part and ensure it reflects what the community desires for the next 4 years are, because annual reports will only reflect what that plan has asked of our officers to deliver, and I think this is definitely what they are working on. So congratulations to them, and thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Bowd.
Took all my thunder. Great speech. The annual report is a good one, and it's one that we can actually say well done, and it's a good template for the next ones to come forward. So in the next 4-year plan, in the next as we develop that the ongoing annual reports will reflect the achievements of the 4-year plan.
Any other councillor wishing to speak to the annual report? Councillor Ellis.
If I could just beg your indulgence and ask a question that may or may not be able to be answered by our officers here. One of the dot points on page 2 of the report is that we've implemented the significant tree register. I'm just wondering if anybody can tell me how many significant trees we have registered.
Work in progress, I think, Councillor. An officer might want to comment, but
Take the answer on notice.
Yeah, through the chair, I have to take the exact amount on notice, but there is, we have acknowledged, I think we've had a couple of hundred that we identified on public land, and we've gone out to the community, and it's on our website, so people can go on, and it's interactive, and people can identify what they think is a significant tree, and our team will assess it and go through a process, and it can be identified and popped onto the map. So the information will be on that website.
thank you. Anything further, Councillor Ellis?
Thank you.
Any other councillor wishing to make comment regarding the recommendation? Councillor Lark?
Yes, I just want to reiterate my earlier comments regarding the financial assistance grants, which are in respect to 24-25, received now and clarified by Mr. Phil Moulter in July. What this does is that it highlights the fact, undeniable fact, that council's operating expenses far exceed its operating income on a day-to-day basis. And that's something for a future council to take into consideration for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. I'll go back to the mover, which was Councillor Holstead. Anything further to add, Councillor Holstead?
Happy to put to the vote.
Okay, put that to the vote. Those in favour of receiving the annual report? Thank you. That's carried. Those against? Sorry, I should have said anybody against. That's carried. Thank
Through
you.
the Mayor, I didn't see Councillor Lark's hand. I don't know whether he voted yes.
Councillor Lark, there's been a comment about not seeing that vote. Would you?
All I can say is that I exercise my rights under the Roberts Rules of Order, where one has a minority opinion, a disagreement with other councillors, for example, maybe lack of sufficient information and so forth. So I was just even though it's classed as a no vote under the Local Government Act, I'm just exercising my right not to vote.
Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Ellis. We'll move on. That was carried. We were clear about that. Yeah, thank you. We'll move on. The next item is the statutory reports. Councillor Ms. Borley, would you like to please read the introduction?
Thank you, Mayor. Officers are withdrawing report 9.1, the informal meeting of councillors' records, as there are no records ready to present to council.
Thank you, Ms. Borley. Can I have a councillor to move that we move as a block 9.2, 9.3, 9.4, 9.5 and 9.6? Councillor Lang, thank you. Second, Councillor Whelan. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Is there any councillors wishing to speak to the reports?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask some questions in relation to the community asset committees.
Thank you. Councillor Holstead.
Just in relation to the 4 asset committees that resigned in 2023 and 2024, I'd like to ask why those committees did resign, or is there a reason that's been given?
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Ms. Borley.
Through you, Mayor, the reasons for the resignations are varied. Some committees had difficulties recruiting volunteers to fill the positions, and others had challenges with the increasing governance compliance requirements.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If venues are directly managed by council, why has council not provided an annual report on behalf of those committees that resigned? Would they not have received the bookwork from those committees in order to put to council an annual report?
Councillor Borley.
Thank you, Mayor. So where a committee has resigned and the management has returned to council, there is not a requirement for council to prepare an annual report for that facility. It is only a requirement for the committee to present a report if they have completed the financial year.
So does that, can I just, sorry, Madam Mayor, does that mean that like next year when council has been the committee for the hall, that council doesn't provide a report to the council for the...
Through you, Mayor, that's correct. So council managed facilities aren't required to be reported against. This is a report specifically related to community asset committees established under the legislation and through CEO delegation.
And just one last one. Do all the community halls receive budget for maintenance, and is it the same amount? What support does council give in the upkeep of these halls?
Thank you, Councillor Halstead. Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, council does provide an annual maintenance grant to each committee of varying amounts depending on the size and requirements for maintenance. In addition, council completes essential safety measure inspections and building inspections and provides guidance and support on other issues as they arise.
So can I speak to it? It's been moved and seconded.
Moved it as blocked.
Okay, so I just wanted to speak to that report. I have concerns around the community asset committees because we've seen so many of them recently resign after the changes to the governance around them. I'd like for, hopefully, a new council, I guess, will consider this, but I'd like to highlight it in today's meeting that I think it does need to be monitored. That, you know, getting volunteers to volunteer these days is a very difficult thing, and we're seeing less and less people put their hand up in the community to volunteer. And I just wouldn't like the changes that we've made to governance impact even further on pushing people who wish to volunteer out of it because it becomes too regulated and too many hoops they have to jump through. So I'm just highlighting that as a concern, given that I think there's 3 of those committees that are in the Western Port Ward that have recently resigned, and I have spoken to committees also who are still there but are struggling with some of the changes to governance, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. We'll leave that to the next committee. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. I just want to add a little bit to what Councillor Halstead was saying. Those, in my head, there's still Section 86 committees, so beg your forgiveness with that. One of the things with the ward structure we've got here, and we've got 3 wards, those Section 86 committees, the last time I counted, Western Port Ward had 11. I think Island Ward has 1 and Bunurong Ward has 2, so there's a particular significance. And given that they represent those Section 86 committees are formed by the people in little townships where those people might be on several different committees all up, there's an overlap. I think we need to do whatever we can to encourage people to sign up for those committees, otherwise we'll lose the whole lot of them and we don't want to overburden them.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, just so we're clear, this will be raised at the next council, with the next council. It's certainly something dealt with then. Have you finished, Councillor Ellis? I had Councillor Bauer. Did you have something further?
A clarification question only.
This is just on these reports, yes.
Does the Council Cultural Centre come under this, or is this a separate entity?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, the House Cultural Centre is not a community asset committee.
These are community asset committee. Now, Councillor Whelan.
A clarification of a question. I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Borley, but that the requirements that are put through are under the statutory requirements, not council requirements in terms of governance and the rest under that legislation. Is that correct?
Through the Mayor, yes, there have been a number of changes to governance requirements made through the Local Government Act 2020, and they're reflected in the governance manual for the community asset committees.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I've just got another question. Isn't that manual something that council puts together? That was my understanding, that the governance policy for the community asset committees is something that council has put together. It does have legislative requirements within it, I understand that, but it is actually a council policy. Is that right, Ms Borley?
That's correct. So as I responded to Councillor Whelan, there were changes made to the Local Government Act 2020 around the management of community asset committees and some of the requirements on those committees. Those have been reflected alongside the requirements under CEO delegation in the governance manual that's provided to each of our committees.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, everybody's had that discussion for those items that we've moved as a block to adopt the recommendations. Request a councillor to move, so move. Councillor Whelan, seconder, Councillor Rooks. Thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. There is no urgent business. Item 10 is urgent business, no urgent business. And my final announcement will be that the next council meeting will be held on the 20th of November here in the Civic Centre in Wonthaggi at 1 p.m. And I thank everybody for their attendance today, for our community members who attend, the press and the officers and the councillors. And that's my last presiding of my last speech.
Well done, Mary.